Hello and welcome to Thought Provoking Deck. I'm Zach, and in today's video I'm going to be comparing the pricing between the Paperspace and Liquidsky services and kind of giving you some insight into what your cost would be and which is the most cost-effective service based on how much time you plan on spending in your cloud desktop. I've broken this off into four kind of sections of time, so 20, 40, 80, and 120 hour blocks. You can kind of look at the one that most closely follows suit to how much time you would plan on spending on your cloud desktop. If you just plan on doing it on a gaming purpose, just kind of translate what you spend, gaming. But I do like 3D CAD and video editing and a lot of other things in my cloud desktop when I'm not here at my main desktop and don't have the power that this machine has. I can use my cloud desktop, so I use it for a lot of other alternatives. So I kind of added all that up and see which is the most cost-effective service for me. And this video is going to primarily look at just the cost-effectiveness of kind of your hourly rate, essentially, for accessing these services, and not really taking into account how much power these machines actually have and how good they are for the service or for the game that you're planning on playing. So without further delay, let's go ahead and jump over to the chart that I made for this video. All right, so you can see the graph I made for the pricing comparisons here. You'll essentially see 4 sets of data. The first set of data is the 20-hour block of time. The next set of data is at 40 hours. The following set is at 80 hours, and the final set of data is at 120 hours of monthly usage. Real quick, if I didn't make this big enough where you can't read it for some reason or the other, you're on mobile or something like that. Blue is Liquidsky Gamer, orange is Liquidsky Pro, gray is the Paperspace GPU Plus, and yellow is the Paperspace P5000 plan. Before we really start this discussion, I wanted to talk about a couple quick points of comparison between these two services. Liquidsky sells their time in essentially blocks of time, so that's why you'll see kind of a steady price for a while and then a big jump because you have to buy a block of time. And I've tried to do this with the monthly plan, which automatically renews on a monthly basis. And it upgrades your service to a 500 gigabyte hard drive, and then buying the biggest allotment of the pay-as-you-go that you would require to hit that 80 hours or the 120 hours or so on and so forth for that specific block of time and how much it would cost to get there. So I try to get the cheapest option. You can buy the blocks in smaller blocks, so maybe you average 40 and sometimes you go over a little bit. You can buy the smaller blocks, so you don't have to do necessarily, if you do 44 hours, you don't have to go from $20 to $50 right off the bat. There are some smaller increments you can buy. But the Paperspace is a much more linear graph on the flip side because they do charge on an hourly basis. And you do have a little bit of base charge here because you pay a flat monthly fee for your storage based on how much storage you got. Another point I want to bring up real quick is all of these services are spec'd out at 500 gigabytes. You do have a lot more flexibility on the Paperspace side. You can actually go even up beyond a terabyte of storage if you want to, but it starts to get a little expensive, like the 1 to 2 terabytes of storage on a monthly basis. But you do have a lot more flexibility with Paperspace if that is kind of what you're looking for on that regard. One final point is Liquidsky makes it super simple to change between the performance tiers, where Paperspace technically has a way to change your performance tier, but it's more complex, and I haven't had the best of luck with it. Essentially, every time on Liquidsky that you start your computer, you have the option of which performance tier you're going to jump into and use. So that gives you a lot more flexibility on which tier you're running into, and it makes it super simple to jump between gamer on lower demanding games or programs, and then jump to the pro plan when you're actually playing more demanding games, such as Doom. Real quick, I want to jump over the specs. As you can see here, the Pro and the GPU Plus, I think, are the kind of the sweet spot really in cloud gaming. Because you have 6 virtual cores at a minimum, you do get a little bit of a bump with the Paperspace GPU Plus. But for gaming purposes, 6 is definitely a nice point. The 3 is a little low in my opinion on the gamer plan, but there are games that will be plenty for. But the kind of the sweet spot, kind of in the price to performance, is these 2 tiers right in the middle: the higher end Liquidsky plan and the lower end Paperspace plan. The RAM difference, 12 gigabytes of RAM is plenty for games. The big bump here is really only good for other professional applications you might run. And then you get a big VRAM bump, but for a lot of games that won't really matter, because right now you can only stream at a maximum of 1080 with these services, or 1080p, sorry, with these services. So at 4 gigabytes RAM, you're pretty much good with most modern games. Because you can't do that big jump to 4K and having the higher resolution textures. It doesn't make a lot of sense until you do jump to those higher resolutions for streaming. So keeping all that in mind, I want to really focus on the price between that orange, which is your Liquidsky Pro, and the gray with the GPU Plus. And for the most part, you can see that they're pretty neck to neck. At certain points of time, the Paperspace will be slightly more expensive, and at other times, the Liquidsky Pro will be more expensive. So it's just something you have to wait with the services. However, with the Liquidsky, I really think it'll be neck to neck with the GPU Plus because of how simple it is to load into the gamer plan. So maybe just while you're installing games even, it is super fast because they have really fast connections at their data centers, but it still does take some time to install games. So maybe while you're installing games, you can always just simply load into the gamer plan because the Liquidsky Pro plan, when you're in that performance tier, costs twice as much credits on a minute basis, or it costs twice as much on an hourly basis when comparing to the gamer plan. So maybe you do your setup and tasks like that in the gamer plan, and even though you're lower in games, you can play on the gamer plan and kind of really bring the GPU Plus plan pretty close to the Liquidsky Pro plan by just kind of using the gamer plan in association with the Pro plan, even if it's on a smaller increment in relation to how much time you spend in the Pro versus the gamer. So I really think that's the sweet spot. And I really think on the pricing side, around 40 hours is the really good sweet spot in cloud gaming. Beyond that, you're kind of getting to the point where it might just be cheaper to purchase a gaming desktop or build a gaming desktop, or even getting a gaming laptop. Back in several years ago, 5-10 years ago, gaming laptops were big, huge, heavy things that didn't last for very long on the power side. Nowadays, they're becoming much slimmer for a gaming laptop and a more viable option. They're quite expensive still, but if you're always on the go and that's your reason for wanting cloud gaming, especially at 120 hours, you might just be better off getting a dedicated gaming computer. But you have to weigh what your use cases are with cloud gaming versus the associated costs. But definitely, I think even up to 40 hours, it's a pretty cheap option to get in gaming, especially if you're pretty casual in your your how much you spend gaming in a given month. And 40 hours is a decent amount of time to game. It's more than an hour a day. It's like about an hour and 20 minutes roughly in a month. So that's not horrible. And if you don't game every night, maybe you have like a 4 or 5 hour gaming stream, gaming spree on the weekends each day. You can definitely do that too, and it'll be definitely within the realm of reason on the price side. So jumping back real quick to the FPS summary, or jumping to the FPS summary, sorry, with Doom, you can see essentially the GPU Plus plan, which is gray, and the Liquidsky Pro plan, which is orange for Doom, are pretty much identical. You do have a little more fluctuation with the GPU Plus plan from Paperspace in the frame rate, whereas the Liquidsky Pro is a lot steadier, not near as much fluctuation. But on the key point here is the average FPS between the two is essentially identical, with a very, very slim margin of difference in the performance. And you kind of see that in the pricing. So really, I think that especially the GPU Plus plan and the Liquid Sky Pro plan are pretty fairly priced for what you get on performance. Once again, that is so far only looking at a single game at this point in time, and that is Doom so far. But at that point, you can definitely see that the gamer plan did not perform well at all. So it's not really in the kind of equation for Doom. But like I said, there are lower end games where the GPU or the gamer plan will be a viable option. So that's where you have the ability to easily switch between the gamer plan on Liquid Sky to the Pro plan on Liquid Sky and kind of save a little bit of money there. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say on the pricing. I probably will bring this chart back up as we progress through this series. I probably should have kind of put this more toward the beginning, so I could have talked about Doom when I did the benchmarks for Doom and kind of weighted the pricing on there. But I probably will bring this chart up throughout this series and look at the pricing to performance ratio on a game by game basis to see if that game is really viable. And then I'm going to try to, maybe towards the end of the series after I've done several games, or maybe periodically after I've done 5 to 6 games, I might kind of weigh out a chart on your price to performance ratio on a handful of games at that point in time and see really what service actually performs both well but also costs a reasonable sum for your gaming time. So that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. I hope you found it enjoyable as well as informative, and hope it helped you choose which cloud gaming service you want to use, or hopefully it didn't muddy the waters even more, because right now the Paperspace GPU Plus plan and the Liquid Sky Pro plan are pretty close in the price to performance ratio, at least using Doom as our first gaming test subject. I will, like I mentioned earlier, I will be bringing this price chart forward into other videos so you can get a price to performance ratio on a game by game basis, and hopefully that'll help you choose which is the best cloud gaming platform for you. And another video I'm thinking about doing sometime in the future is kind of the other perks for these what these providers actually provide on top of just a cloud gaming desktop. So a couple of quick things real quick on Liquid Sky is the fact that you can change between tiers real easily. And another topic is their ads, which can earn you free gaming time. This has gone down over time on how much you can earn on a daily basis, at least from my experience. But I do have a video on that. If you're interested in that, search my channel for Liquid Sky ads, and you should be able to find it. But essentially, it lets you earn free gaming time by watching ads. And then Paperspace has its own little unique features too. You can run it in any browser, which is cool. It's not great for gaming, of course. The Parsec client is really what makes Paperspace great for gaming. But if you plan on using your cloud desktop for other alternative uses, such as video editing or Photoshop or anything like that, 3D CAD, the desktop option is quite enjoyable. They do have USB pass-through, which lets you use all your USB devices on Paperspace, which is pretty cool through their app. And they have like a dual monitor option, so that's another great benefit for productivity purposes. Not a lot of great things for gaming specifically, but if you do plan on having your cloud desktop as a multi-purpose, Paperspace has some of its own benefits. And I'll probably do this as a kind of a separate video because it does look like they might be pretty close, at least in the GPU Plus plan from Paperspace and the Pro plan from Liquid Sky, and the price to performance ratio. So it might be these little bitty benefits that really drive you one way or the other. So once again, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a big like. I greatly appreciate that. And also, if you're not already an existing subscriber, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're an existing subscriber or a new subscriber and you haven't already done so, hit that bell icon to be notified as I release new videos. One final point is check out the links in the description below or on the banners that kind of rotate through these videos for different ways to chat with me or support thought-provoking tech also. So once again, guys, thanks for watching this video, and until next time, Zach out.